I'm a civil engineer with 30 years experience. The passion for urban greening came from my kids. 5 years ago they asked me, Dad, what are you doing about climate change? And I just realised that, I've worked on some of Melbourne's biggest master plan communities, and started to just look and just be retrospectively look at what was going on. And I thought, we can do this better. Our profession sometimes sees urban greening as just the add-on. It's the easy bit, it's at the end of the project. Usually in development, money's already come in and the focus is to move on. I want to really change that narrative and say, no, it's actually a complex topic and we need to actually properly consider it. Wyndham and Whittlesea, they're the two biggest growth areas in Melbourne. Patricia Torqueta last year did a presentation, PhD student. She did a great presentation at TREENET that looked at forecasting what the canopy cover could be in these big growth areas. So it was studying thousands of trees in each species over a 15-year timeline, and then looked at forecasting what that cover could be. And this is what she came up with. Whittlesea on 2018 survey was at 10%. The forecast, based on her research work, was at 14% of gross, 25% of public realm. And Wyndham was 2% currently, or at 2018, forecast to be 10% of gross. It's like nowhere near it. And even the minimum target, which I think is a low bar, we're still not achieving that. So there's an obvious mismatch between policy, design, and what's actually being done. And that's what it looks like. We've seen that. I mean, we look at that and we all go, and it's true. It's pretty rubbish. We have an obligation to actually improve the outcomes for our communities and acknowledge that there's a problem, and then we can get on with it. So I think we've got an opportunity to lead the way by upskilling our own urban greening knowledge with collaboration with specialists. And there's so many elements to urban greening. So the easy stuff, well, just put more trees in. Start with that. Improve the tree growth zone and increase the permeability. So these are just basic principles. And the harder stuff is around the regulatory framework, and probably diving into a bit more detail here about how we do things. This is a 16-metre wide road reserve in Melbourne. It's about 60% of the streets that we build, and that's typically how things are done. Services are put in at minimum depth under the tree planting zone, and away you go. This is an example of some sections that we're working on with some like-minded clients, because not all clients want to go down this route, but we're fortunate enough to work with some clients. Those trees are scaled at 8-metre diameter. And in this case, all we've done is put the services in at maximum depth, change the offsets, taken a footpath out, reduced the car parking ratio so we could reduce pavement areas. And what happened? We increased permeability by 50%, and we increased the soil volume by 70%. That's what I would call the easy stuff. And this is our growth zone stuff. So on the right there, you'll see, instead of backfilling in clay, we're backfilling in an engineered, I'll call it an engineered topsoil. It's basically a product that's designed to compact well, but not too well, and do the job that it needs to do for a tree. And here's some more harder stuff where the top image is a conventional street, bottom image is a street that's considered the urban design, changed the pavement layouts, and you can see the difference in the quantities of trees in that scenario. And there's some broader industry considerations. I think we have a cultural problem, and we need to really improve our attitude to this important subject. And I think for engineers, it is about being really clear on what the targets are, codifying it and measuring it. When we build these lots, the capital cost of the landscape is probably, it's less than 3%. If you made that 4%, I think you would make a big difference. A lot of the stuff that I see in its very basic extent doesn't include the many experts that are needed. on a site-specific basis, because every site's different. So you need to do the work to inform the design and the execution to get the best outcome. I think, and it's a very broad observation of my 30 years in land development, but I think the capacity and knowledge of generally around urban greening is up and down. And I often wonder whether there needs to be an urban greening discipline that is actually established, that draws a thread through all these experts, and how that could happen. Because I think there's lots of great ideas, but I think the thing that's missing is a thread that draws it all together.